Oh God, it was the most disgusting thing at a housemate dinner yesterday. Jimmy took a little like pre-made little chicken nuggety thing and put it in his mouth, and then he was sitting beside me, and he was backlit from the oven light, or the stove light, and he found a hair that was about this long and just slowly pulled it out, and it was perfectly backlit and blonde, so I could see just every centimeter as it spooled out. It
Nasty.
was disgusting. So that's definitely not going to be our cold open. Yeah,
Welcome to the end of year disgusting talk.
Yeah.
Tanked up podcast.
Oof a doof. It wasn't pretty.
I can imagine, unlike our beautiful, pretty faces that everyone can see if you're over on the YouTube channel looking at us, you can see the beers that we're going to be drinking. I'm Ben. I'm here with Lucy.
Hello.
And Aadil.
Hey!
I'm good. I'm all moved. I'm now in this echoey, as you two call it, interrogation chamber.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's good.
Yeah. New beginnings.
Yes. How are you, Lucy? New jumper?
Yes, thank you.
Leaning into the Xbox family just that little bit more with your, what is it, a Series Y Xbox jumper, a Xbox One X Series 2 jumper, I don't know.
Yeah. S in America, S for sweater.
Yes. Very good. Unless it's cross-stitched, then they can stick the X on it.
Yeah.
So, it's our end-of-year show. We're going to drink some beers. We're going to talk about our favourite games of this year. And, as a little bonus, we're going to talk about our favourite games of the decade. Because it's the end of the 2010s. Oh, yeah. That's it. No more games, thank you. End of time. Done.
I mean, just spoiler alert. As we all know, the world actually ended in 2012, and this has just been a weird fever dream of the apocalypse. So none of the games on my list will be past 2012 because they're not real.
That's fair. Okay, that makes sense.
I don't remember any games that came out before 2012 because I don't remember a happy time. So. Don't remember.
I suppose.
Yeah.
We're going to cross generations as well, aren't we? Because the first few years were the previous generation. Unless they're all PC games, obviously, then it's just one continual master race of releases and joy.
Yeah. I think all my games have been on the PC at some point.
Okay.
But I think a chunk of them came out on console. But that is for the back half of the episode, and I'm not going to derail things.
Right. Well, let's drink some beers then. Aadil.
Shit.
What have you got first? What are we going to start with?
I have the Whiplash 6 Million Ways. It is a IPA with a pale malt, oat malt, Terrapils, wheat, Citra, BBC, Vic Secret, and Centennial. So that's 3 malts and 3 hops. Somehow making it 6 million. I mean, I like Whiplash. So it's brewed by Whiplash for Whiplash at Gypsy Hill, as we know. Lovely 2001-esque obelisk ape
It's the
type
Xbox
thing.
Series X on a cam.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. It's got the vents and everything.
We're probably not going to rip into that ginormous box too much this episode.
It's not even. I don't even think it's that big.
Did you see the tweet put out by Zerg where it compared the PlayStation 5 with a fridge?
Oh.
Was it Business Times who?
Yeah, someone ran with it.
Yeah,
while I let it settle, does someone else want to pour a beer?
I'll go next. I just want to say I haven't seen that Whiplash beer, and I'm very jealous because I really try and hunt them down because I really like Whiplash.
And it was the last one in the bottle shop.
Okay, I usually find them for a decent price in good old Sturchley Wines up here in Birmingham. The beer that I'm going to drink is from Brew By Numbers.
Excellent.
It's called... Well, it's their number 21, and it's a collaboration with Hobson's. It's a Mosaic and Citra Pale Ale, 4.2%. This is in a 330ml can. Let's have a look. Okay. This lower strength but highly hopped beer fermented with Hobson's house yeast infused with the Dream Team, I agree, with Mosaic and Citra, providing wave after wave of passion fruit, guava, and peachy juiciness. So all the way up on the hop scale, it's a bit medium in the bitterness, and well, I think that's pretty much it. We know it's got Mosaic and Citra in it.
Yeah. Nice. It looks. Is it only 330ml?
Fuck.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Unlike a lot of their cans, which are 440.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
I am having a little bit of a festive beer. It's not really a winter beer. It's Festive Faith, an Australian pale ale from Northern Monk. So this says hazy, juicy pale ale and a perfect accompaniment to a Christmas barbecue on an Australian beach. Unpasteurised and unfined. This is fresh product and should be experienced as such. Yeah, sure. What's it got in it?
All I can hear is Aadil's shutter on his.
Sorry, I should have muted the camera.
No, it's fine. I thought it was a nice background sound.
It is 5.4% starting line.
Can you hold that up? I think that was. Yeah, I was going to buy that today. I should have. I didn't.
That's fine.
I was like,
Fair
okay,
enough.
well, let me pick between these beers. I saw that one. I was almost about to pull the trigger, and then I got a different beer instead.
That's fair. It smells nice though.
At least it's got a representation today.
Yes. Back to you, Aadil. How was the Whiplash?
Oh god, it's good.
After you've snapped it to death.
It's real good. It's you can definitely take that it tastes like an IPA, but it's quite malt forward. Not surprising given that they've purposely added several malts to bring that out. So it's got the finish of a sort of stronger IPA, a little citrusy, tight touch bit of resin, but the initial taste is like a balance of. You get that juicy citrus fruitiness, but it's almost immediately coupled with that maltiness, and the maltin and sort of initial hit from the hops sort of starts to fade, and you get this malty middle, and then you're left with a bit of a bitter hoppy finish with where the resinness sort of comes in. The malts are still kind of there, but it's definitely sort of initial hit, slightly hop forward, but then almost immediately just maltiness, hops fade, malty midsection, and then a nice finish where they're intertwined but slightly more hop. The malts are, I mean, light biscuity. A little. Whole thing tastes a little sweet in the middle. So kind of like biscuity shortbready, but like again, just slightly. And then as the hops come forward at the end, you sort of lose that sweetness and flavor for bitterness. It's real tasty. I mean, we all know, regular listeners know, I like a taste curve that sort of changes. This is hitting various parts, and I like that you can sort of taste, even when the malt and the hops are going at the same time. They don't feel like they're fighting. They meld well when they're both sort of peaking, and then as one fades, the other one takes over. It's just a really well balanced yet quite curvy beer.
Nice. Flows through well.
What's the body like? Like, I find that a lot of Whiplash beers are like nice and hefty.
It's actually.
I mean, it looks like a juice bomb.
Yeah, it's actually it's thinner than I would have expected given things are going on. So it's like I said, it's quite juicy. The maltiness sort of pulls that away a little. But like mouthfeel wise, it's not too thick. Another thing, even though it's 6.6%, it doesn't really coat the tongue. You're not getting a lot of that alcohol through, or at least it's pairing well enough with the fruit that you don't notice it with the other part. So yeah, it's actually not. I wouldn't say it's overtly bodied. In that.
Nice. Very nice. I
Yeah,
will seek that one out.
Lucy, how's the Brew By Numbers?
Yeah, it's wasn't really nice. I don't know if the head is just because I kind of juggled it up the stairs, or if it is just like frothy and it's about 2-finger like white head at the moment. It's got quite a bit of haze, to be honest. It's quite cloudy. Just probably a few shades darker than straw, I'd say. But yeah, it's really nice. It said on the can that the hops, it's like all the way up. It's like 5 out of 5 on the hops. Not really getting that. It doesn't taste that hoppy, but for me that's not a bad thing with this beer because it's really easy drinking. I mean, it's only, what was it, 4.2%. It is, it's perfect session strength, but you're not getting that like that hoppiness that would make you, maybe take a break in between sips. It's just flowing, and it's got quite a nice. It's quite light, but it's still got, in terms of its body, but it's still got that kind of. It's got like kind of nutty flavor, nutty and lemony flavor. I don't think that's coming from the malts, but it's I really like this. It's not what I expected. I expected to get a bit more mosaic, a bit more citra out of it, whereas I'm getting like a bit more malt forward and a bit of lemon in terms of the fruits, rather than, what did I say, guava? Was it guava, passion fruit? Yeah, I guess I'm getting the peach for sure. And it's like that kind of like peach pulpiness. That's kind of, even though it's quite light bodied, that's still giving it a bit of heft and flavour. But
yeah,
I like it. It's
nice. I think we found previously with sort of guava and a few of the other sort of tropical fruits that actually the flavour gets lost quite easily with other things. Like especially something like pineapple, but actually then with various different hops coming out and people kind of concentrating on that. I remember a couple of weeks ago. One of you had a guava. I think it was you, Aadil. Did you have a guava beer? And that was kind of all you got from it, because it's like it's guava. That's everything.
And it was like I didn't realize how much you could make a beer taste like guava, again, because I think usually there's that trade-off. And it definitely did that job well. Just wasn't, if I recall correctly, what I was looking for at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll see if the other fruits, like maybe when the temperature cools a bit, because it is just like quite fresh out of the fridge at this point. See if the other fruits come into the fore when it warms up a bit.
Nice, good. This festive faith kind of almost sits in between both of your beers, really. I'm getting it's got a lovely dank tropical fruit nose to it, and it's hazy. I'm not sure whether you'll get that in the there. It's nice and hazy. It's not quite orange. It's like a weak orange squash sort of colouring to it. The head disappeared pretty quickly, but it's lacing on the glass still quite nicely. And I would say, actually, I think the nose is better than the flavour. And I put my nose in, and I get this nice tropical nose with a lot of dankness in there. But actually, in the flavour, that dankness doesn't quite come through. And I'm getting this very crisp to start, and slightly thin sort of body to it. And then the tropical fruits are pushing through a little bit of orange, perhaps, a little bit of melon maybe in there as well.
Okay.
And it's kind of got this bitterness to it, but it's very, very weak. And you kind of get that as the orange and as those tropical fruits kind of just fade very slightly, that bitterness does creep back in, but it continues to creep in. It's not sort of like, here's the bitterness. It's more bitter now, 20 seconds after I sipped it, than it was 3 seconds after I'd initially had that, 5 seconds after I'd initially had that. It kind of almost like that crisp nature and the carbonation to it kind of sticks around and then just pushes that bitterness. And I'm kind of sat here almost dry in the mouth, salivating a little bit.
Now, do you think that's that's it building up, or do you think it's more that the other things were maybe standing in its way and have faded off, so it feels more concentrated?
I think perhaps it feels more concentrated, because you don't, that I wouldn't say that this is a bitter beer at all once I've stopped it, but now I would. 10 seconds later, now I would say this has bitterness, and it is only a pale ale. I'm not expecting a big heft of bitterness to it, and what kind of matches up with those tropical fruits, with that initial kind of flavour, does work very well. But this build-up, this bitterness afterwards, that continues just to dry me out. Is it unexpected? It's not unpleasant, but I just don't think the two elements kind of work well. There's the beer, and then there's this sort of aftertaste almost, and this after effect to it. So I like the beer. Beer's nice. It's just got this slightly odd, not unpleasant, but just out of place element.
So the finish just doesn't quite match the rest of the beer. I mean, I will interject and just say, I think I forgot to say that it's very tropical, this beer. I think I jumped straight to some citrusness, and it's very tropical, very OT. Those are the notes I think I missed. They're probably the bigger ones.
OT. I think mine's a bit OT.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
See,
so
we bounce off each other very well. It's like,
excellent.
That's the word.
Yeah, I was going to say. So when you started mentioning some stone fruit and some tropical that's not pineapple, those are the fruity flavors I was thinking of.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, should we start first? First segment is going to be all of us talking about our games of the year. And years past, we've spent hours poring over these games, going into in-depth discussions about them and things. I think for this, we'll try and
I'd rather do that for the back half of the...
Yeah, we'll try and keep it a little bit lighter. We've got a lot to cover over the next couple of hours. So we will, we can each run down our lists as we normally do, 10, 9, 8, and if we want to say a little bit more about the game, and that leads to a little bit of conversation.
Yeah. Shall we go in a round? So, honorable mention, no one wants to say anything, loop to 10, loop around. So there's still some sort of production-wise element of suspense on the tops.
Yeah, I can list off a few honourable mentions. Not many.
Have one.
Have you got a spreadsheet again, Lucy?
The spreadsheet is there that I'm looking at. Usually I put a star next to, these are the games that, were my favourites and stuff like that. This year's looking a little sparse, but I'll just run down some. I starred the honourable mentions. Babbitt Is You. That was a good game.
That's definitely on my list.
Okay, well, I won't say anything more about that. Photographs, that was a nice little game that I enjoyed. Gato Roboto, nice little Metroidvania, enjoyed that. Crypt of the Necrodancer, Cadence of... Hold on, sorry, I have to say the full title. Cadence of Hyrule, Crypt of the Necrodancer, featuring The Legend of Zelda. Sorry.
I've played
Traffics, which is a little traffic management sim that I enjoyed. Sayonara Wild Hearts, I enjoyed that.
You're mentioning a lot of games I meant to play but didn't get around to.
That is basically my year. I think this year will be very different games because it's that game that Ben really liked and I wanted to play and just didn't get around to it. So those are
Photographs was definitely one that you mentioned and I really wanted to play, and I actually bought it on Steam. Then plumb forgot about it.
Yep.
Until I was looking through my Steam catalog and I was like, oh yeah, I purchased that in May or something.
Yeah. And now it's on Humble Bundle Original.
I'm sure it's...
And the last one I'll say, Pilgrims, which is a little iOS arcade game from the makers of Machinarium and Samorost and all those fun point-and-click games.
Nice. An Apple arcade game? Or just an iOS?
I think it's just Apple Arcade at the moment. I think it's on PC as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that tends to That's currently the weird trade-off. Is it's either free on Apple Arcade by your subscription, or you pay
On Steam, yeah.
actual money for it on Steam, and there's no in between. Yeah.
Well, there was Sayonara Wild Hearts, which came out on console as well, so that's something.
Yeah. Good. I'll run through my honourable mentions. I think last year, I'm continuing the trend of games I played in the from a previous year, released from a previous year. So all of my honourable mentions are sort of previous game releases. I think the ones I enjoyed the most were probably Subnautica, Rise of the Tomb Raider, which I spent a lot of time in, Tacoma, and Forgotten Anne.
I started Forgotten Anne.
A range of games. I think I found this year I've played such a different range of genres and things where I'm picking up smaller experiences, leaning out of both, say, the AAA space and the indie space, finding games that kind of sit in between. They're not quite AA, but they're not quite indie. They don't kind of
there's like BA games.
They're in this kind of middle ground. And obviously Rise of the Tomb Raider is a much bigger game. Tacoma has that level of production that kind of just lifts it a little bit. But Subnautica, really fun game. Played that a lot more than I thought I would. And that's why it's on it, because I suddenly I was playing it, I'm like, yeah, this is fine, this is okay. And then suddenly just it clicked. I'm like, yes, I do want to actually go and explore over here and then craft some more bits and do this sorts of things. It gave me that kind of feeling I initially wanted from something like No Man's Sky, which was a very different experience when it released, and I think Subnautica kind of saw that space, and it has evolved through early access and those sorts of things, but is now quite a good sort of survival building exploration style game.
Yeah, I think you'd really like the Outer Wilds then, because I started that over the last week. Haven't finished it, so that I'll mention that as well. I haven't finished it, but that was good. And if we're going back to previous years, like I played more games from previous years than I think this year.
Really?
So like stuff like Mini Metro, Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds. I finished Yoshi's Island this year. Just a lot of things from previous years. Bully, I played Prey, I played Alan Wake, so many games. Oh, and I could forget Crackdown 3. That came out this year.
Oh, it did come out this year.
Didn't crack the top 10.
Is that an honourable mention?
It is, because that game's fun.
Or is it just a mention?
A mention.
Just a mention.
No, it's an honourable mention, because I genuinely enjoyed listening to podcasts and playing as Terry Crews and just doing dumb shit. It was good.
Good. Aadil, honourable mentions.
I just have the one, and it was mostly because I realised the reason I liked it was pure nostalgia. So I've got Link's Awakening in the honourable mentions slot because I didn't end up finishing it on the Switch because I happened to in the summer have found my old Game Boy with one cart, the original Link's Awakening, and all it made me want to do was play it in all its broken, terrible control glory. Like, I saw the quality of life stuff, but there were also things that clearly were added in, like, the DS version, and then subsequently on the Switch that were... They clashed with my nostalgia, like some of the, like, flipping to 2D bits, and I'm like, I don't remember how this dungeon actually went. Oh, I kind of want to play the old one, even though it means that, like, I will have to only have 2 abilities at a time, etc. So I really liked it. I like the art style. It doesn't play super well on the Switch.
No, I was about to say the original probably runs better. So.
Yeah, ultimately it scratched an itch. But like, if I hadn't found that cart, I probably would have finished the whole thing. But now it's like, okay, there's enough difference that my nostalgia is driving me towards the original, which I have access to so long as I'm in Canada. So when I go next, I'll probably deal with that. So again, like I had a moment where I was playing it quite a bit, and then it just didn't quite work for my own idiosyncrasies.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, nice. So let's loop around back to you, Lucy, and we'll start our countdown. Number 10. What is it? Is it something you want to discuss?
To be honest, The bottom 5 for me are in no particular order,
Okay.
really. So I'll go with Astrologaster, which
Oh, I really wanted
was
to play that.
Yeah, I mean, I was going through the games and I was just like, I could put like, there's so many games that I could put at like number 10, you know? I could have put like Crackdown on there or something to that effect. But, you know, Astrologaster, I really liked the voice acting in it. It was novel. It was like a visual novel, but, you know, set in medieval times about this wacko doctor, and it's funny. It had like a good old, you know, chorus singing like interstitial text and
Yeah,
stuff.
I recall. I saw a quick
Yeah.
look on Jive Bomb, I think of it, and it looked real good.
Yeah, it was just good fun, you know. Not one that's really memorable, but when you look back and it's like, oh yeah, I played that and I enjoyed my time. If it like it takes a lot for a game to make me laugh, and that one did.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
that's on
Nice.
there.
Good. My number 10 is Erica. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's on there, and it beat a few other games much more because of the experience of playing it with Kim than the game itself. You know, having that kind of FMV drama thriller style game that Kim and I can play together. It's the type of TV shows that she enjoys. It's delivered in a very similar kind of way, and we could both sit down and make decisions together and discuss it as we would with a TV show. It made it, you know, we talk about kind of games that try and change kind of the medium up a little bit or merge different types of media together. I think this one works quite well in kind of finding a middle ground for different people to come into, and I think it's probably better. Like I definitely enjoyed the experience and know that I enjoy the experience more playing it with Kim than I would have done had I just played it by myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you know, if anyone likes the sound of that, and we've talked about it before, obviously, then it's definitely one to play with a friend.
I was to say that's the number one reason I didn't end up playing through it was because I kind of wanted to play with somebody. Because from your story of it, it just seemed like it would work a lot better. It's another reason why, like, I haven't been super pursuing Man from Medan.
Yeah.
It's the new game from the people who did whatchamacallit?
Until Dawn.
Until
Mike
Dawn, yeah.
Carlin conversation later.
Super massive.
So, yeah. Yeah, because it just seems like what I want to do is play that with, you know, 4 people. Yeah. Yeah, so same idea. Like, so I've got a handful of these games, which is like, oh, these would be really fun sitting on a couch with someone, even if they're not a gamer. It's worth holding them in the back pocket, so to speak,
Is someone
versus playing by
flipping
yourself.
a deck of cards? I keep hearing this handshake.
Playing with Velcro. Apologies.
I thought it was like someone flipping a deck of cards.
I didn't even notice. It was just sitting beside me.
Is there a
And I started
grifter in
flipping.
here getting ready to, you know, play some blackjack?
Yeah.
Gambit over here.
Hey, viewers on YouTube, you can see that you will be able to spot the look in my face where I realized what I was doing.
I was like, is that his cat or something?
Sorry,
I was like,
no, all me.
no worries.
Number 10.
My number 10 is mostly for concepts. I waffled on whether this should be an honorable mention or a number 10, but I did dip back into it a few times in the year when I remembered it existed. But that Meditations.
Are you still Velcroing?
No.
Oh, sorry. I hear.
I will just do this
Handshake.
The whole time.
yeah. This is the new podcast. Meditations.
Yes.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it for like the first week and a half I had it. I checked in every day. Then I forgot about it for months, and I checked back in. But I really like the premise of like indie experiences and the like pushing the sort of churn of video games as a premise rather than the sort of a fault we currently have of just always focusing on things. And if I quickly did a look up to remind myself, and I think that next year it just recycles.
Oh,
Okay,
they're continuing it.
nice. So you can just go
So
back
there's
in.
because they originally came up with 365 things.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe now, if you miss January 4th, on the upcoming January 4th, you'll be able to play that same game.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Again, it was only one article that said that explicitly, but it's worth trying out. And in general, I thought most of the experiences were either really cool, like how to make a narrative point in like 35 seconds, or how to show an interesting type of gameplay in 35 seconds. And I think that was just like the thing, meditations is a great sort of name for it. And I thought it was worth pointing out, even though I didn't play it throughout the year.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I completely forgot that came out. So yeah, it was like a little game jam every day. But it actually spotlight separate one every day. Yeah, that was cool. That's good that they're recycling it. I mean, if elusive targets come back, anything can. So.
Right. Number 9, Lucy.
I went with Void Bastards. It's
Another game.
it's a game that I
play.
It's probably a game that I probably wouldn't have typically played. It was a first-person roguelite set in space. But it came to Game Pass, and I think that's, emblematic of just how good this year has been for like subscribers of like Game Pass and Apple Arcade, just experiencing things that you may not have taken the gamble on originally. But yeah, it was a melange of like completely different systems that I probably wouldn't have batted an eyelid at previously. Like, I don't like roguelikes. Not a massive fan of space games myself, but it's got a cool comic like art style to it. Yeah, it's got its humor as well. I think a lot of the enemies are voiced by like Scottish people talking about Iron Brew and stuff like that. So yeah, it was just a good experience. It was one of those games where it's like, oh, I can't stop playing this. The gameplay looks so fun. It's one of those that it's just like, oh, I'll give it a chance, and really ended up enjoying. So
Nice.
That's on there.
Good. I think my number 9, which is Metro Exodus, is kind of it's almost the opposite to your experience with Void Bastards. I went into this really looking forward to it, and it didn't quite live up to the previous games, and I think that very much came down to the direction that they took it in, making it slightly more open, not open world, but kind of
like open hubs, wasn't it?
Yes,
like,
an open field almost. You'd load into a level and it's a big rectangle, and you can kind of go anywhere within that and do anything within that until you hit that critical path and that story point.
Kind of like Rise of the Tomb Raider, like kind of like that.
Yeah, it's similar. Well, Rise of the Tomb Raider kind of at least had corridor elements. You'd have that rectangle, but you could lead off somewhere, going and doing a little bit of platforming. Metro kind of just loaded you into it, and you're then there within that space. It was still good. It felt good. It was a good shooter, competent shooter, and still gave me elements of the Metro series. Obviously pushed the story forward, kept the characters, a little bit of investment there with what's going on, but just that loss of closed, tight, confined spaces. One of the best levels on that game was where you go into this mountain and you're in this kind of like bunker area, and it's actually it's corridors. And that's what you're doing. You're going through corridors. You're moving through rooms. You don't know who's going to come out from where. Rather than being able to see enemies kind of cresting the horizon, or knowing kind of where they are, because you can see them traveling towards you. So it still had those elements, but it just wasn't quite enough across the whole game for me for it to be a bit higher.
Because I know that people love those games for their stories, like most of all. Whenever I hear about Metro you hear is like, oh yeah, proper survivalist gameplay, but also the stories are really cool because, you know, based on, you know, the novels and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But it's a shame that they lost their way a bit with that. But I remember you talking, you know, early on in the year, and you did enjoy it. So
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
it's not a oh, this just gets on by default. You may have called on it since,
Absolutely.
but you know,
Yes.
it is definitely worthy of a place.
Mhm. Yes, it is definitely. Aadil, number 9.
I think I might have actually missed talking about this, but I picked up a few months back. I picked up Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 and had the opportunity to play it with House, which is exactly what I was waiting around to do. I really like Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2. I thought they were fantastic Marvel games, but also just sort of co-op, sort of RPG elements of a co-op brawler with a decent plot. I think Ultimate Alliance 3 has some trade-offs of the other ones, but it's still that core gameplay experience. So, so they traded some, made it slightly easier to pick up and play, and lost some of the depth of a couple of the modes the other ones had. But ultimately, hey, Alliancely, Marvelly,
Doesn't
freely.
work. No.
Sorry, yeah, it really doesn't at all. Yeah, it's been a while since a new game has sort of made me sort of do. Oh yeah, it's couch co-op. It's new, but let's play it. Let's have fun. Not. Oh, we have to somehow make it work on the same computer, but clearly this game wants us to be on 2 separate computers, which I guess we could put beside each other. It was clearly designed as a couch co-op game. It's the Switch. I understand why it was exclusive to the Switch, and it just was. Yeah, it's just solid.
Yes,
Reasonable plot. Yeah, just a solid game.
Yeah, that game has its defenders. Hey, other franchise.
Yeah, who are the defenders?
I didn't mean that, but it does
Hulk,
have its defenders.
Doctor Strange, Silver Surfer, and Namor. I don't think you can play as all 4 of the defenders in Ultimate Alliance.
Yeah, but yeah, wasn't something on my radar, and it kind of came and went. But as I said, it's got its defenders. So
it definitely
really
came and went. Like I bought it after the big hype, and I got it on a sale, and that was great for me. Yeah.
Nice, good. So let's do our number 8s, and then maybe we'll have a little bit of a break for another beer. Lucy, number 8.
Let me consult my spreadsheet. I put Wilmot's Warehouse.
Yes.
The cute little Amazon, it's a tycoon game, but Amazon organizational and sorting game. Amazon
underpaid
like
warehouse
Amazon
worker game.
Yeah. Despite its like clearly brutal connotations, especially how that game ends, I will not spoil it. But it's a game where you learn something about yourself and how OCD you are, and how much you can possibly care for a little anthropomorphic square with a cute face. It's basically a puzzle game where you're just I spoke about it on the podcast before, where you're given like tons of items. It's seen from a 2D perspective, and all these different items are tiles, and it's up to you to organize your warehouse. So when the shutters open in the warehouse and people want these items, you can get them to these people in the most efficient way without running out of time. It's on timer. It's equally relaxing as it is very stressful, and it's just a novel idea for a puzzle game, and it's something different that we haven't seen. So I really enjoyed it, and
nice.
Wilmot's my guy. I hope he has a success.
What was the full name again? Wilmot's
Warehouse. Yeah, it's on Steam and Switch where I played it, because it is the perfect Switch game. Speaking of Switch, shout out to the Super Mario Maker 2 this year. It was very good.
Did it make your list?
No.
It did not make
I love it. It's just because I could have put anything
Yeah.
as my bottom 5, and that just didn't.
Yeah.
that's the end of the.
I thought about honorable mentioning
Yeah.
it, but I honestly let go of it a little quicker than I thought. I think I never got into it enough to make a level, so I felt like I wasn't really experiencing the whole thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I made some levels.
Oh, I remember.
So do I.
Yeah, and it was clearly
deal with
too
that
hard.
carnage.
Yeah.
I'm rubbish at Mario, obviously.
No, I need to become a better designer. It's not you.
Blame the designer. My number 8 is also a puzzle game that did something a little bit different, but it doesn't really have a name because it's called Untitled Goose Game.
That's the name.
Yeah, it is a name. I think this would have been much higher on my list if the puzzles had have been through that middle section of the game had have been a little bit tighter, hadn't kind of just repeated being an asshole goose. It's got some clever ideas where it you have to get one human to chuck something over the wall and scaring people in certain ways and taking stuff in various different ways to put somewhere and stuff, and it's fun. It's full of humour. I think similarly to how we talk about something like genital jousting, it does have that level of humour to it, and it's satisfying to just honk at a young boy who is scared of a goose.
Yes. Go on.
I was just gonna say, I think that the puzzles just let it down just a little bit.
It was a little bit of jank and not enough direction for me, but I grew to like that game the more I played. But yeah, there was just a lack of like visual feedback sometimes. It's like, am I doing this right? But then when I learnt like the idiosyncrasies of the game and the design, it became a bit better. But yeah, I knew you were gonna mention it, so yeah.
It's higher up on my list, but I had.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, basically, I've had. I thought last year was a thin year for me playing games. This year was way thin. I didn't realize how few games I played, and honestly, the big thing that got things on the list this year were, did I go back to it?
Yeah.
And Goose Game it tickled me the right way. It was also the right length for someone who is having a year where I'm not playing a lot of games.
Definitely,
and so
yeah.
its length was good. I paused halfway through, got a little frustrated with getting that fucking pint glass in the river. Did it, finished the game. Didn't finish all the bonus activities, but really enjoyed it. Yeah,
I
really
was never
enjoyed it.
gonna roll those cabbages.
I also really enjoyed that there were things you could do that weren't necessarily attached to the specific game. Like in the, what was it, second level or whatever, where you're harassing that boy. Like the shopkeep was in your way. Like you had to get things in the basket without her noticing. But you could also just take shit and make her pace back and forth. Yeah. And why I really liked that game was harassing people on my own means rather than just checking things off the list. And so, I kind of liked not looking at the list and just seeing what I could do in an area, and ended up just accidentally doing things. And that's also how I got a few of the post-game activities. That secret list popped up a few times for me by the end of the game before I actually unlocked it, because I was just fucking about, and it was I kind of treated it like Grand Theft Goose. Like, I was just saying what I could do in the world, right? And that's why I really liked it. And then finding out, this was a thing that they secretly wanted me to do, just made me want to do more and more of that. And I totally agree. Like, some of those puzzles just weren't great. And, especially, some of them were just sort of either not clear enough or just kind of you have to fight the jank that, I get it. I just, for me personally, I didn't think it was enough to. There was a wonder of being the goose and seeing what I could get away with. And like I said, a lot of the time it was, I know this is literally just pathing coding of moving a thing, watching the person come back, honking at them, having them startle, and then still pursue the thing. Or if I honk at them at the right moment, they're gonna repath to a different object that I have moved.
Yes.
And figuring out that balance was just fun, even if I didn't need either of those objects necessarily. I just really enjoyed exploring that game. And I don't know why. I get it.
Nice.
There's nothing built into the gameplay that pushes you towards that, but I really liked it.
Now you
so that was my number 3.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
you
Again, it was a
understand
weird year for me.
why I like Hitman. Ultimate Goose Game, the ultimate stand-up.
Very,
Yeah, that is
very
true.
similar. Yes.
Yeah.
In terms of cultural impact, that Goose Game is probably number one.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, absolutely. From
Which
this
is
year.
great.
And
Yeah.
actually, I wouldn't be surprised if part of the reason why I stayed with it was because it was being
In the
memed, and people were
zeitgeist.
talking about it in all my gaming groups. Everyone sort of jumped on, and it's one of the few games that I got at the same time as like the media, social media cycle, which was very easy to stick to.
And I love the very ending when, yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the bell,
Mhm.
yeah.
That is good. You
bell.
just suddenly just clicks and like, oh yes, yes.
Very good.
So Aadil, what is your number 7?
8 or 7.
Oh, 8.
Eight.
Oh, 8. Yes, we are
Yeah.
8. Yes.
It's something that Lucy
jump
mentioned.
ahead.
It's Cadence of Hyrule. It's the
Alright,
first
okay.
rhythm game I've played in ages. I love the innovation, even though it's Crypt of the Necrodancer, which I have just never got around to playing for years. It helped me that it was a Zelda game, even though it was obviously a Necrodancer game. I liked playing as Zelda.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was just... I mean, to be honest, the Zelda sometimes fucked me up because I wanted to go to default Zelda game, and it was like, gotta keep that fucking beat, otherwise you'll get nowhere.
But I was like banging my head like, all the way through
when you
that
get in the
game.
zone in that game, it is one of the most satisfying things.
Yeah.
And so, although I didn't finish, I put it on the list because it's been a long time since I've in the zone like that game. It's like when you're playing a driving game and you just see the line. Like you and the gameplay are really interconnected in a very clear way, and very few game allow you that. Like a first-person shooter, you could be in the zone, but it's just too much interplay. You're usually not clear, at least in a multiplayer one. Or maybe something on rails, you might feel like, oh yeah, bang, bang, bang. Yeah, but like it's a thing that I really felt like I was doing the game optimally, and it felt good, and I was clearly hitting the gameplay loop exactly right. And it has to be exact because of the nature of the rhythm. So like it just feeds on itself, and you focus narrowly, and it's just really satisfying. When you go through a stretch of that game, just playing it well.
Same,
And it's not like it's not like it took a lot of skill to play it well in that sense. Like it's not,
that's what I was worried about, because I'm not good at rhythm games, but it's so approachable, and you can turn it with fixed beat mode, but that's like no point. You're better off just
I
playing
tried that,
the way
and it
you
just
found
didn't work.
Nah, and the Kakariko crypt track to that game is probably the best song I've heard all year. It's so good.
That soundtrack, I definitely had
The
like
whole
a couple
soundtrack's
weeks
great.
of just listening to the soundtrack on
Same.
YouTube
Yeah,
as I studied and stuff.
Nice. Good.
good game.
Excellent. So, are we ready for another beer?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I finished mine.
We'll roll back round. Aadil, you kicked off. You opened your beer first, didn't you? So,
Do you want me to do it again?
yes, please.
I have something from a little-known brewery called Cloudwater.
Don't know.
Oh, yeah,
It's a West Case Dipper called "What's Best for Us is also what's best for you."
Ah, yes.
I'm not sure if I had. Oh, I went to Cloudwater's tap room. I don't know how long it's been since I recorded.
It's been a few weeks, actually, isn't it?
Yeah. I went to their tap room. Really cool.
It's got the political balances, written for who, sponsored for who, and it's got all kinds of flavor text.
Oh yeah.
Political parties write their manifestos not just to create a picture of our future that wins your votes, but to draw in wealthy sponsors from powerful places. Who is pulling their strings? Who do parties have in mind with their proposals to change the course of government budget, investment in our collective futures, and the rights of UK's citizens and workforce? Are their ears bent by the peoples in your street, or that by powerful lobbyists, foreign powers, or multinational corporations? Invest time in familiarizing yourself with each party's manifestos and align with what's best for you, and that's also what's best for us. Yeah, so that didn't work.
I saw that on the shelves, and I was just like, oh, this is a Cloudwater beer I haven't had, and I started reading that. I was just put it down immediately. I was like, I just want to
No.
know what this tastes like.
No politics in beer.
Yeah. It's a 9% West Coast IPA that says please vote on the 12th of December.
Nice. Okay. I mean, lots of people. Well, no, that's not true.
Which
Not a
day
lot
was
of
it?
people did.
It was if I picked it up on election day, that was even funnier. When was I actually at the beer shop?
Last Thursday.
It might have been. Was it Thursday?
Thursday.
It was Thursday.
was election
Wednesday.
day.
I can't remember.
No,
if
no,
I
but
was
when
there last
you were
week.
there
Yeah.
the day, you were there before Thursday.
Okay, that's all right then. That's probably. Oh yeah. Anyway, yeah. I was just
Fuck
like,
up my
no.
pour.
I'm like,
Please
I'm
don't
good.
judge me,
You
internet.
open next, Lucy. You
Yeah.
open next. What have you got next?
I'm gonna open up a beer from Track Brewing Company,
Ooh, nice.
who have a tap room right next to Cloudwaters.
Yeah.
So that's sweet.
Did you go in there as well?
Yes. Well, I think the main one was closed, but they had like a little pop-up kind of thing
Okay.
there. I'm not sure. But I hate to live in Manchester again. Anyway, that just depressed me then. This is called Half Dome, and it's a pale ale, 5.3%. Nice little
Nice
can art. It is just like it's like Mr. Blobby has chicken pox.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
We've definitely aged ourselves with Mr. Blobby references.
Malts are super pale wheat, oats, Vienna. Hops are Galaxy, Citra, Simcoe. Yeast is. I don't know if I'm not familiar with my yeast. I don't know if that says LA free or if it
Yeah.
LA.
might do.
I don't know.
LA the third.
Yeah, it's the third LA, and that's it. Designed by AH Creative. So I'm a Mr. Blobby fan.
Nice. Good, get it poured. I am drinking a double dry hopped, double India Pale Ale called Hybrid Moments from Frau Gruber. I've had not a beer from these guys before, but I've had a collaboration. I can't remember who it was a collaboration with, whether it was Garage or maybe Northern Monk. I don't remember exactly who it was, but I've seen their name. I was chatting with Lewis in the bottle shop, and I missed out on that Wylam skunky, Pepe Le Pew covered beer that they put out a month or a few weeks or so ago, and I wanted something a bit dank, and Lewis said this should be pretty dank. And also Frau Gruber, it's that time of year, it's Christmas, everyone's watching Die Hard with Hans Gruber, so it fits the season. This says,
not a Christmas movie.
no, it fucking is.
It definitely is.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what you think about it. It's
a great
okay.
movie.
You can think either way. Just don't fight with people on the internet on it.
Exactly. Oh, yes. The hops are Brew 1, Galaxy, Motueka, and Mosaic BBC. That's all it gives me. Just says it has barley malt, wheat malt, which is spelt wrong, and oat malt, hops and yeast. There we go.
Hey,
That's it. But it's a nice can. It's sort of this slightly rawish type, almost sea kind of watery sort of thing. Maybe it's like fungus. Maybe it's like the underside of a mushroom. Who knows? But I'm going to drink this beer.
I was like, that looks like a clicker.
Yeah, it does a little bit actually. Yeah. More on that one later, probably.
Perhaps.
It is 8.3%.
Oh, you're starting on those, are you? The big
Oh
one.
mate, my next beer is a fucking Imperial Stout,
Beast.
so I've got to
Well, you know what?
try and
I'll
lead
join
into
you
it.
there.
I was
I
going to
was
say,
doing low to high, but I'll just skip and go straight for the banger.
Jump
You're
straight in.
doing it. Yeah.
I mean, mine's a 9% West Coast DIPA.
Now?
Yeah.
What you were drinking now? Jesus. I need to stick my game.
It's
I
the
should
end of the
crack
year,
open
mate.
the other.
Aadil, how is it? How is the beer?
It's actually more less opaque than I was going to expect. I thought there might be some haze going on, but it's actually quite clear. On YouTube, you can see fingers behind. You can't. That's just because I have a bad camera. Head was kind of big, kind of did a pour, but disappeared quite well, quickly. Legs are reasonable. Kind of quick, but good coating. I just smelled and got some head in my nose. That's not how you nose a beer. You don't inhale it through the nostril. Boy, that's a weird feeling. I've been doing this for years. I'm an amateur beer taster. It's quite sweet. I'm a touch malty on the nose. It's like lemony citrus. Oh, that extra percentage gives it that viscosity, gives it that velvety coating. I'm getting a lot of lemon citrus off of this. It's quite crisp. I'm getting... I'm not sure if this is lingering from the previous one, but I am getting a little bit of maltiness.
Yeah.
So it could easily be lingering, because it's not a lot. But it's crisp. It's got this crisp citrusiness, but like the fruits that are kind of soft. So I'm getting something not like super distinct fruits. They're kind of soft. The 9% is adding a sweetness, but I think the softness of the fruit, such that it's like somewhere between stone fruit and tropical, can't quite tell. The sweetness is melding really well with that sort of less discernible fruitness, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it tastes a little lemon forward, and then just quite sort of, hey, this is a 9% really tasty IPA. Got some things going on, light citrus, maybe a light tropical, but nothing, a real good balance of them. This is just a really crisp IPA. Not again, because it's West Coast, it's not super hoppy bitter. It's really easy to drink, which is dangerous.
Nice.
Like I said, there's this underlying maltiness, light biscuity, not as oaty as the last one. Like just more biscuity, but underlying the thing. It ends with a standard sort of bittery hoppiness, and that sweetness from the alcohol slowly fades on the finish, till you're left with a lingering kind of dry mouth bitterness, but just kinda like. Why I'm reaching for it isn't, I need to quench thirst, so that's part of it. It's mostly, I would like to try that more.
Yeah.
My biggest complaint is probably that, given that everything's sort of kind of soft and amorphous, taste-wise, like things are blended really well together, they're going a little quick for my taste, so I want to, because again, it's a little amorphous, like how much is tropical, how much is stone fruit, I'm not sure. I'm reaching for it earlier to try and re-diagnose and get, because it's so quick, this may not last as long as it should.
Sure, that's fair. We'll see how it evolves as you drink it. Lucy, how's yours?
Like Aadil, I'm having to probably gonna have to talk through this, try and understand what's going on. It looks exactly like yours though, Ben. The same glass probably helps.
Yes.
It's very.
I'm so sad I don't have
It's
one of
completely. What is it? Another one that you smashed, or?
No,
No, that was the year.
that was the
Didn't attend.
that was the year I didn't.
Okay, I'll sell it to you for $1,000 Canadian dollars. Because the pound's not going to be worth anything.
Hey, it surged on fucking the morning after.
Watch it tank, you know.
Oh yeah, well.
Yeah.
You think we're tanked
like
up? We'll see the
tanked up.
pound in a year. Hey, sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, massive tangent by me. Sorry. Yeah, it's a nice yellowy color. It's really. It's basically opaque. It's a very good looking beer though.
Hmm.
Not getting much on the aroma. At most, I'm getting a little bit of citrus, a little bit of orange, a little bit of orange peel, but not much.
It does look very pale, very light.
Yeah. Oh, it's. I had a few sips before. It had a very funky first taste, which is a bit strange, but seems to have mellowed as I poured the rest of the can in there. It's very, very soft. It's. I think it's softer than the first beer that I had, which was extremely light-bodied. This has a bit more of a viscous mouthfeel, but just in terms of that soft like water quality, this is like just so smooth, just so easy drinking. What hops did this have in it? It had Galaxy. So Galaxy Citra, I can smell the Citra. Maybe taste a bit of that Citra and that Simcoe, but it's not that a overly fruity taste to it. It's quite understated. It's it is just a pale ale. I'm not expecting massive amounts of fruit, and there's virtually no bitterness that I can really taste. But yeah, I wish it was doing a bit more. Because I expect a lot of good things from Track, a lot of flavour in their beers, but this just doesn't have that final punch. It's a pleasant beer. It's very easy to drink, and it's like, oh, this could be gone within a number of seconds if I wasn't listening to, like you, Aadil. But yeah, I wish I had a bit more. I wish there was a bit more fruit, maybe a bit more bitterness, because I like a bit more punch, a bit more to say, a bit more to show. But maybe it'll grow on me a bit more. But for now, it's just like, this is a nice beer, and I would happily go to their, tap room and drink 10 of these in a row. So, yeah.
Good. I'm really impressed by mine. The first beer from Frau Gruber that I've had, double dry hopped, double India Pale Ale. Like your beer, Aadil, definitely get that 8.3% definitely comes in the body. You've got that velvetiness, you've got that slight thickening of it as well. And like both of your first beers as well, as I said, it's got oat malt in there, and you definitely get that oatiness through. But first off, you have this kind of slightly sweet, slightly stewed, fruity nose to it, which has a very slight hint of like this slight pininess to it. Not much on the nose, it's those sweet kind of fruits that are pushing through on the nose. And unlike the first beer, it matches through in that flavour that you get those slightly sweet, slightly stewed fruits that sit at the front. They're maybe a little bit more sort of the tropical fruits rather than sort of citrus or stone fruits or something. It's a little bit maybe leaning into not so much kind of grapefruit, but there's this kind of slight essence of that in there as well. I can't remember what the hops were. I think it was Galaxy, Mosaic, Motueka, and Brew 1. But it does lead on to actually quite a light pininess. And I was expecting maybe something a bit more dank, something a little bit more maybe weedy to come through, but actually it balances that quite well, that you're not hit by this big dank kind of finish to it, that it just leads into this nice, very level, really well balanced for the sort of the slightly sweeter fruits. You're getting pininess towards the end, not a huge amount of bitterness with it, but the finish on this leaves you with a nice overall sort of flavour. And whilst it's still drying me out, it isn't screaming at me to drink it to quench my thirst.
Right.
It wants me to go back in to go, ooh, what was that? How are these flavours combining and flowing through? I want to just see how that pininess is coming back in just a little bit more. And I mean, I've already smashed probably half the can whilst you two have been talking, so
Oh
it's
dear.
very, very easy to drink. I think maybe the sweetness that you're getting from the fruits maybe is a little bit of that higher alcohol as well.
Right.
You know, you get that not the burn that you get from those higher alcohols, but you can get that slight sort of residue almost that you kind of you know that there's a little bit more alcohol in this.
Yeah.
Than say like a juice bomb, which would hide it through that big punch of sort of fruit flavors. Because this is balanced quite well, that alcohol just is allowed to show itself very briefly.
Right.
So yeah, really well made. Very, very impressed with this.
Nice. Just a few more thoughts on mine. And getting a bit of slight bit of sweetness, a slight bit of syrupiness, bit of fruitiness on this beer. So yeah, it's coming along now. Still not
Good.
where I quite want it to be, but definitely getting a bit more flavour now, which is good. Nice.
Good. So we'll lean back into our end of year lists. We've rattled on a little bit with some of these. I think we need to speed it up very slightly.
Or we might end up releasing. Feel free to cut this, but we might end up releasing 2 episodes, one of the front half, one of the back.
Possibly. We could split it up.
We will talk about that later.
I think what it is that none of ours will overlap this, whereas last year.
Yeah, last year there was a lot.
There was a lot
Yeah,
of overlap.
the top
Yeah,
5
absolutely.
overlapping. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So loose, yes, and we've already
I'm
mentioned
quite
some.
keen on talking about the decade. Is I guess the problem I have rushing. I think that's more interesting, but that's also because I played basically 12 games.
No, I you know what? To shake it up a bit, I'm gonna list my 7 and my 6.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Let's say that's good. Yeah.
Hurry things up a bit. My 6 or 7 interchangeable at this point are Gears 5. Brilliant, third person shooter. They make the best, even though it's a coalition this time around. They still make the best feeling shooters, and even though like the last Gears was 2016, and I actually prefer Gears 4 to Gears 5.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm in the mood for another Gears, but turns out I was, and the fact that it was on Game Pass makes it even easier, even better. Nothing feels like it's just so well playing, and stories Gears, but it's like solid, solid. And my other game is A Short Hike, which is
It's also on my list.
and it's also on Humble. It came out early on Humble. Very striking in its art style. It's got this like pixelated, it's 3D, and I don't even know what the term for it is. It's like isometric, but
Yeah, I was going to say
3D
isometric, but it's
space.
kind of not quite, is it?
It's the camera angle, the 45-degree, 60-degree camera
Yeah.
angle. Of
It's more like
isometric, but it's a full 3D.
axonometric rather than
Yeah.
isometric.
Oh, there you go. Those are the correct terms for them. And yeah, it's just a very calming. If you play that game, all your problems will melt away for a good 2 hours or however long it takes to complete. It's got a really nice gameplay loop. It looks great, and the ending, which I will not spoil, it touched me, and it was it's what I needed at that moment. It's a really nice game. So
Nice.
yeah, those are my 6 and
And it is definitely in my Humble library.
yeah. So I remember asking you, I was like, "Dude, you played this? It looks really cool."
Well, as it's featured on your list, Aadil. I know I was next, but as it's featured on your list, why don't you? Is there much more you want to say about it? Or?
No, it's featured in his game library.
Oh, his game library.
No, I was saying
It's on his list.
No, it's a thing I've been really meaning to play and even technically own, but haven't. Because it's me, so even ownership doesn't mean I'll fucking play it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you might now. It's featured
goes
sort of
for all
highly
of
on
us.
Lucy's list.
Yeah, actually, and it's the right length.
Yeah, it's about 2 hours. You can spend a bit more time in it, but that's purely optional.
I think my 6 and 7 are actually similar to yours, Lucy, in that actually they're a little bit interchangeable, and I wasn't sure whether, even when I opened my list up, I thought maybe they could sort of switch places, really. But they are Sunless Skies and The Division 2. Two very, very different games.
Really?
Sunless Skies Sunless Skies is written fantastically. It's got some brilliant writing, and it's so dark, and it's just that narrative exploration game delivered in a different way than I'm used to with our first person kind of walking simulators and stuff.
Yeah.
This is a narrative driven game, and whilst there's a little bit of combat, it's a little bit of sort of maneuvering the ship about, moving between different ports and things. It is all about that story and driving forward the stories, the characters, the crew that you meet, and the world itself, written really, really well. The Division 2 is completely opposite in that it's all gameplay. It's all about the gameplay with that game.
And it's not political.
It's not political whatsoever. Unlike Sunless Skies, which has loads of political undercurrents to it, the Division 2 has no politics in there at all. But it's fun. It is fun to play. Yeah. I really enjoyed the first game. I knew that I'd like the Division 2, and they have improved on things. It released much like the Division at the end of its 18-month first sort of period, when they tightened up the controls, or they've made the shooting feel a little bit better. It released in that sort of state. So as a package, as an initial release, it was really good. But I think I would have featured higher had it have held me longer. I just didn't.
Why it didn't make my list. Basically, I went to Canada when you guys, like you and a couple others in the Outer Lives crew, were playing it semi-regular. And I went to Canada for a month, came back, and you guys had to kind of hit top level. And we played a few times, and I was super low level, and the scaling was all right, to be honest. I think that mechanic worked. But because you guys had already done the main thrust, and it was just repetition for you, and it seemed like the end game wasn't gripping enough for you guys. It was just like, look, I could catch up by myself, or I could force you guys to help me to catch up, but it seems like the only reason you would play is to help me catch up to the boredom you're facing now. And that's honestly, like, taking those 3 weeks off release for me was the death knell for that game. Came back and it was just, we sort of, like, I think for the first couple days I was actually out leveled most of you. And then you guys sort of caught up, and then I went away, and then it was just seemed like a point to playing it. If you guys were sort of like, well, we could play endgame with you, but we should help you get there. But it wasn't, we want to play endgame. We want to get you to the place where you can play endgame with us. It just all became very hypothetical of like, this is a use of our time together. And that's ultimately not enough to hold me to one of these types of games. And that's why it didn't make my list. Like, I thought a lot about it because I put hours into it, which for most games this year did not do. But I didn't feel like there was enough going for it.
Yeah, and that's fair. I liked it completely. I enjoyed it enough by myself.
Yeah.
That the gameplay I felt was fun, and I did a lot of sort of end game stuff. Got up to tier 2, I think, world tier 2, and I think again it ended up at that point where it was more of an excuse for like us to hang out, for us to do something and chat for an evening and play something,
which is fine, right? Some games are perfect for that.
Yes. So again, like with Erica, it's more, this one features it a little bit higher because it's a fun game to play, but it was more about that experience of hanging out with friends and playing.
Yeah, and just like every Ubisoft game that came out this year, I forgot that came out this year. I was like, oh Christ, the Division 2? Yeah, and it's probably the best selling game of the year. After Call of Duty.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
I bet after Call of Duty is the best selling game of the year.
It's probably high. It's
And
very,
then it's
very-
Breakpoint or Far Cry
Yeah,
New
well,
Dawn.
actually,
I was
probably is
thinking,
Breakpoint, yeah.
Oh yeah,
did
let's
the Crew 2
let's-
come out this year?
No,
Hmm.
no,
That
it came out
snowboarding
last
game.
year.
I couldn't
I'll
believe
find
when you
out.
said Division 2
Um,
that it came out this year. That came
Aadil.
and went.
It did, yeah.
Mm.
It really did.
Massively.
So wait,
Aadil, what's your 6 and 7? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I can remember
It
what
was
you had.
yours.
Division 2 and what was the other one?
Sunless Skies.
Sunless Skies. I just couldn't remember what it was. I have Baba's You up there as number 6. Really liked puzzling. Really, it speaks to my logician philosopher brain in all kinds of ways. I like the fact that it's lateral thinking. The later levels, when I came back to it, sometimes it was the universality of the puzzling in the beginning of the game is definitely what sold me on it, and then it became much more narrow as the game went on, so that you had to understand exactly what path they wanted. Well, there were definitely multiple paths in those early levels, which is what I was liking a lot about it.
Yeah, that's why.
So that was my biggest
complaint.
complaint, is you could pass levels in different ways in the beginning, and then you just had to figure out what they wanted you to think, and that ruined sort of
Massively.
why I loved it.
Yeah, that's why I fell off.
Yeah, so actually, having said that, I'm actually going to invert 6 and 7, so that's my number 7, because I actually think I had way more fun consistently, despite not finishing the game, because I'm playing it with a friend who doesn't live in this country. Box Boy, Box Girl, number 6. Fucking love that game. It is my couch co-op game of the year. It was super fun. I played it, then went back to Canada, or back from Canada, and then happened to go back unexpectedly because my folks helped me get to a family wedding in June, so I went back even though I was just there at Easter. And then we played a bunch more levels, Diane and I, and it was great. Like, it picked it up after a month. We both knew what we were doing. We both just played as far as we got. Next time we go to Calgary, I'm going to have my Switch. We're going to try and finish that game. Like, the only reason I haven't finished that game is because I started it with my friend, and I want to finish it with my friend. Otherwise, I would have fucking just played it, because I really enjoy it. It does the session-based puzzling really well. The cooperation's really easy. I haven't actually played the single player, because I don't see the point. Maybe after I finish it, I might go back. But
It's
like,
very good.
that's what I've heard, but like, to me, this is a couch co-op game. That's why I really like it.
I played the co-op levels in single player. Aadil, I knew I could count on you. I did mention it as an honourable mention because I suspected, and you didn't let me down, and you got to others. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Yeah.
I have manipulated you like a puppet.
Yes. All of us. All of us.
And by that you
Top
mean
fives.
you told me about a good game, and I actually playing it,
Yeah.
so you knew I would talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
And Box
top
Boy can't be
fives.
on my top 10 every year, so I gotta switch up. And
Is Hitman in there somewhere, Lucy?
Oh no, I didn't. I barely played enough Hitman this year. I flog myself every day for it because.
Right. So what don't you flog yourself for? Top fives.
I don't
Quickfire?
flog myself for. Are we gonna do top 5?
Top five.
Let's just do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop when we need to. Because a couple of mine have already been mentioned. So
You mean I talked about these throwaway games in my bottom
hey,
5?
we can. I said stop when we need to. I said we can stop when we need to. We can stop on every single. I'm literally just restating the premise of the countdown.
My number 5 is E-Shade. Number 4 is.
No, it's fine. We can jump around. So let's do doubles. 5 and 4.
My number 4 is What the Golf.
Oh, I'm so sad it's not been on Android. Otherwise, I would have played the shit out of it. It looked super fun.
I think two games you played sort of more recently, I suppose. E-Shade, which we've spoken about a couple of times, does seem like you really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's so pleasant and just relaxing, and there's nothing else like it, to be honest. Like this weird painting, first-person, medieval, anthropomorphic people, animals. painting for them, and it's nice. It's about
Art house
fulfilling.
furrying.
Yes. Just leave it at that. Move on. That's what that game is. Move on.
Ben, what are your 5 and 4?
Wait, what the golf?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's more than I thought. I played that at like EGX a few years ago, or last year, I can't remember. And it's been on my radar for ages, and it expanded and grew into something that I never thought it would have. It has this like Super Mario world overworld where you have to actually move on this overworld to get to different levels, and there's puzzles within that, and there's puzzles within the puzzles, and there's challenge puzzles, and it always just expands on what is very simple concept, but it just keeps it fresh and interesting for like the 4-hour playthrough, and it's like and it riffs on all these other games, but not in a very corny mimetic way. It does it in a really intelligent way. It's really fun puzzle game. Yeah, it's really good.
So I think one of the best descriptions I heard of it was that it's so good that it can develop really unique, compelling gameplay loops and mechanics, and then throw them away after 2 minutes, because every level it's an entirely new mechanic. But they're just so well done that you could make a game out of any individual. We've done this once, learn it, cool. Now we're moving on, which is like a very baller approach of confidence
It's like there's some levels where it's like, okay, you challenge levels, the harder difficulty on those levels, it's going to be like, oh, get it under par, do this thing again, but get it under par. And some of those, and it is the case with some of those levels, but on most of the levels, it's like, okay, you've done this, now try this completely different mechanic which doesn't even relate to what you're doing in the OG level. Do this as a challenge level, and it's just it's fun.
I mean, so I was hoping for it to come out on Android. It seems like a really good mobile game. It's on Switch, but Switch tax and
it's worth the Switch tax.
Yeah, so I might end up getting it. I was just really hoping by the end of the year, to be honest, it'd come out on Android, because it seems like it doesn't need any more than phone controls.
No, it's really good on a touchscreen. I bought an iPad for it, so there you go. You have
so thinking, to me, it was like, if I wait for it to come out on Android, I can just pay a little less, but also play it whenever I'm wherever. The only reason I held off on the Steam version, so it's on Steam, Switch, and Apple Play, whatever it's called, Apple Arcade. Yeah, that's what it's called. I'm going to start calling Apple Arcade Apple Play. It's going to happen.
Just Google will sue you. So, if we're doing 4s and 5s, my number 5 is Concrete Genie. And
that game that's on my shelf.
Yes, it is. Yes,
that's cool.
And my number 4 is Hades.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I've chatted a lot about Concrete Genie over a couple of episodes. I don't think I've talked a huge amount about Hades.
I didn't see that one coming.
But it's just fun. It's just really, really fun. It's well built. It is an early access game.
I was just like, isn't it technically unreleased still?
Yeah,
or
who cares if you can buy it?
I'm playing it, mate.
Counts.
So
I mean, I think its initial release was like last December.
It doesn't matter. I had Hollow Knight as my number one last year.
Alright, I bought it this year.
Yeah,
it's fine.
And it doesn't. It really doesn't matter.
That throws my honourable mentions idea out.
There's not going to be a
completely.
judicial panel like checking our answers.
Making sure that it's okay.
I'm just qualified. So given that you've only talked a little bit about it, do you want to just remind?
Yeah. So it is an isometric based sort of hack and slash, very similar to something like Transistor. Comes from.
It's from Supergiant as well, right?
Yeah.
So it follows on from that very, very well, but it's set in Greek mythology, and you are trying to escape the underworld and progressing through these various levels through different kinds of play styles. So every run that you have, it's very easy to die. You start back at the beginning and you start your run again. And each level is a set of generated rooms almost. And what they've done is they've staggered kind of the release. So when it released, you only had the first 2 kind of worlds that you could progress through. Then they released the next one, and now they've got the fourth one, which I think is the final one, which has come out. So it's just super fun, and it's very, very compelling to go back and just do another run and try out a different style of loadout, weapons, abilities. It's very easy to kind of kit yourself out and feel powerful, and then suddenly you'll hit that next level, and they've tailored it well enough that actually you feel quite weak as soon as you then hit that next level, and you need to think about things a little more. You need to strategize a little bit more. Doesn't do the same sort of thing as Transistor does, where it allows you to play in those 2 different ways. You can pause the action and plan your moves.
Right.
It is just that more in the moment hack and slash style to play with. So you've got to be thinking very, very quickly kind of about what you're doing. And whilst something like the Division 2, you do have to think quite quickly to react to where enemies are, you generally know, here's a wave of enemies, here's a wave of enemies, and then here's a boss coming. Hades mixes up those levels enough that you're like, I don't know what's going to be in this next room. I don't know if my loadout and the way that I play is going to be good enough to defeat this enemy that I may encounter along this way. So it still throws in enough randomness that it keeps you on your toes to have to think about things. And it's a lovely art style. The soundtrack's really good. It's well voice acted. And I mean, they just make such good games.
All those super giant qualities.
Yes. And it's really interesting watching the NoClip documentary alongside
developing
playing the game as well. So
and I think it's out on Steam in a hot minute. Or
it is now. Yes, just come out in the last couple of weeks.
It reminds me of a 3D Dead Cells. It looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, my only complaint is it looks like it'd be a real fun co-op dungeon crawler, and it's just single.
Single player's better.
Yeah, I mean, I
get rid of your Diablos.
Yeah. Again, I said my only complaint. I didn't say it was a strong.
No. It's binary. You hate it.
I hate everything. Everything Supergiant has ever done, obviously.
You don't. Let's move on. Aadil, 4 and 5.
Well, 5's a tricky one because it came out in February 2018. But I didn't get around to it, and boy, did it hit me hard, such that I cried on an airplane. It's Florence.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that just was one of those memories of a video game here that was like, you know what, that's a top 5 memory. It's so well done. The use of mobile phone mechanics and mobile interaction mechanics to tell a story that was emotionally extremely powerful in a short amount of time. If you've been in a relationship and had trouble, you get this game. Didn't help that there's a brown dude as one of the main characters.
Yeah, we told you not to play it last year.
You guys literally did. You guys were like, "This is great." Aadil, think you're too fragile right now. So a year later, I tried.
We don't want to break this, man.
Was still kind of fragile. Cried on a plane. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Everyone knows this game was great. If you don't fucking play it, it's super cheap on any mobile platform. Play it on your phone. And I think it might be on other things. You want to play it on your phone. So that was my number 5. Everyone, I mean, I think we've talked about it a bunch. You guys definitely spoiler safe.
We touched about it
featured in our end of year chat.
So because I'm behind the 8 ball, I'm talking about it now. And then my number 4 is actually, if savvy people will notice that basically all my games are Switch games, and that says a lot, given that I didn't play games but managed to switch it up. It's Ape Out.
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah.
nice.
Super straightforward, fun. God, the music, the scoring,
Yeah.
the sound effects, Foley working with the scoring, the top-down, very simple premise. I introduced a handful of people to it. They cottoned on reasonably well. Just so well designed. The jazz soundtrack works so good. Little touches like when you die, it shows you your exact pathing through the level. Means you could either be like, oh yeah, I wandered out a bit, or you could be strategically like, oh cool, this is now the path I need to take, and it just gives both of those notions of, am I playing this as a fuckboat game? Am I playing this strategically? I'm getting valuable information either way. So well done.
The thing is, it's procedurally generated, and I didn't like that about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you.
I wish it was more like Hotline Miami, like tailored.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed that game.
Mm.
Very
I think
good.
it's, again, I mean, this year I was going for the pick up, put down, quite challenging,
Yeah,
and that
absolutely.
loop was really satisfying. It's a great game.
Mhm.
Even if you take a lot of attempts at a level, never really trying, and maybe the procedural generation was part of that. It just so like there's a plus to that side, but I hear what you're saying. I think a different and very fulfilling version of that game would be like, these are the gameplay elements we're introducing. This is the best way to do that, because sometimes it was jarring, I'll admit. Yeah.
Yeah. When they put me down a long corridor at the very start of the level, and I had nowhere to go.
No fucking protection. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that got snubbed for quite a few, soundtrack.
I was really surprised that the sound wasn't like in any awards, because again, the fact that like smacking people around were symbols that basically was impossible not to feel like they were part of the soundtrack. It's such a fucking achievement. And then just because I've already said this, my number 3 was Goose Game. We've already talked about it, so let's roll to Lucy's number 3.
Well, I was going to say, I think we've probably talked about our top 3s quite at length during episodes, unless anyone has something completely out of field that we haven't
talk about both of mine
discussed. I wonder whether we just, Lucy, list your top 3, and then we will delve in
as we see fit. Cool.
I will talk about my number 1 a little bit more, but
okay.
Top 3: Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night, Symphony of the Castlevanias.
Yep.
Number 2 is Luigi Mansion 3. And to round out the horror theme
Rise
of my
of the
top
Luigi.
3,
Death Stranding.
yes, Rise of the yeah, it's the hit game Death Strand. No, can't even make that joke. It's Resident Evil 2, which it didn't change from, when did that come out? In February, January? It took me like a month to play or something like that.
I forgot it came out this year, to be honest.
I didn't, because it's the best game of the year by far. Forget your controls and all that nonsense. Resident Evil 2, I mean, it's just so confident in what it wants to do, in what it wants to achieve. And I didn't play the original. I played the original Resident Evil, and as everyone knows who listens to this, I love Dino Crisis. I love that. Even though it was tank controls, those are the thing back in the day. I probably wouldn't want a tank control game now, but I like that. It's the same way I like Metroid. It's like tight corridors, that enclosed space. It's why I like, I don't know, Batman Arkham Asylum. It's that enclosed space, and just that setting. It's like the setting means a lot more than even sometimes the gameplay.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, and it reminded me of like playing the first Resident Evil. I fell off quick back in the day, because when you bring out Dino Crisis, I mean, dinosaurs are cooler than zombies. Come on, let's be real.
Absolutely.
Thank you. But it was just so complicated, and I'm a scaredy cat, so I don't play survival horror games. I don't play horror games in general, but I forced my way through it because the gameplay was just so fun. It's a beautiful looking game, and there's just so many little details about like how the zombies react to you, and it's just confident in everything that it wants to do, everything it wants to achieve. The people who made that obviously played the original game to hell and just knew exactly what they wanted to achieve, and they went out and achieved it. It's just
and
it's just great in game design, gameplay, everything.
And it's obviously done well enough that they very quick and must have already had in development, Resident Evil 3 for it to be coming out very early next year. And
I'm excited for a Resident Evil game, and I haven't been excited for a Resident Evil game ever. You know, like I played Resident Evil 5, I never played 4 and stuff like that. But it's like, I've got it on Game Pass. I'll get around to it. But it's like, but even that, like, you know, that open space in that Spanish village, that isn't as interesting to me as like going for a mansion or a police department or something like that. It's such a good game. And it's like, what are we doing when the best game of the year is like
a remake?
But it's very good, very good game.
We see this. We see this in Hollywood all the time, don't we? You know, the same story told in a slightly different way, written by someone. The screenplay is by someone else, and it's acted by different people. And it's the same story, and it even has the same title or something like. And it is, and it's different enough that it is a different experience. I would play through it and think, actually, it's a very different experience. I expect to have the same kind of experience as I did in the original Resident Evil 2, whereas you won't. You will have a different experience playing that game.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it has to do with just the move of the camera. They've recreated all the exact same maps, etc. The fact that you are going from a fixed to a person-based camera means a lot of the moves just feel different.
And it's a lot more personal. I'm glad the next Resident Evil isn't first person, because that would probably scare me too much. But yeah, this is my game of the year. Goes to Capcom, and it was awarded by the good old folks who make Doom, because if Doom Eternal came out this year, that would have been So congrats, Capcom. You're doing good work nowadays.
There's too many games coming out next year. So
Resident Evil 2 is so good.
I'll run down my my top 3, but I don't know which one I'm going to talk about. So,
if it's not number 1, what are you doing?
No. It's only because I've talked about number 1 at length. At absolute length. Number 3 is Control. I know you didn't.
I think it's a good game. It's a good game.
As much as I did, Lucy, but I platinumed it. I wanted to keep playing. I enjoyed the powers. It felt, at least for me, it felt good.
I'm not going to crap all over it, Ben. We'll do that on a January podcast.
Absolutely. Number 2 is Observation.
Yes.
Which I again is one of those games where I want to go back to try and pick out different things and sort of see and experience. But actually, I got a lot out of that first playthrough. And I don't think, it's going to be at least another 6 months or so before I go back to it. Because the story is written so well, just that space horror. And I love a good space game. Yeah. I love a good horror game. It fits so well together that it just resonated enough that the writing being as good as it was, and the sort of the cinematography of it, the way that they set the scenes, and they flashed something in front of you in one of these space station tubes, the lighting just cut out and then suddenly you see this just form move across, and those sorts of things was just shot so well. I'm kind of combining the two is my number 1, which is A Plague Tale: Innocence.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I thought that might be the case.
This is the one I regret not playing the most.
I mean, I did not expect to enjoy this game as much as I did. Again, written very well. The characters are played very well, especially if you kick it into the French language and you have the subtitles on. The emphasis on certain things is a little bit different to the English sort of playthrough. And I'm not that good with French. I'm okay, but occasionally, I'm not going to quite get the tone in the French version versus the English one. But actually, the way that this is acted, you know that there's this urgency to
Okay, I'm going to play it in French then. I've heard that.
And the setting is dark and it's grim, and the mood, everything, as a whole package just works so well, and it looks fantastic. The lighting in the game, especially with it being the main mechanic, the way that things are lit and keeping those rats away from you, it works really well as a mechanic, but it also works just to set the tone, to give you that atmosphere, to make you feel like everything is coming in on you. That it is a grim fucking place to be.
Yeah.
Like as a package, I think that is the best for me this year. And everything from the aesthetic, the writing, the sound, the gameplay, it all gels so well that it just sits above everything else for me this year.
I mean, that opener, I can tell everything that you just said. Like, it's so good. I just didn't want rats to eat my face all year. I don't know what it was. It's just like I just didn't want to play something so dark.
I think that's super fair.
Yeah, but it's the one I regret not playing the most. It's the one I thought play Out of Wilds first.
Yeah.
And then Plague Tale, but then time it runs away.
Well,
I mean,
it's definitely the first one you get to next year. Definitely.
And I awkwardly have Outer Worlds, which I suspect would be top of my list, but I didn't get around to playing it. So it'll have to feature in a year. And of course, now the teaching's over, I'm probably going to put it in the next 7 days. But I also so you were so effusive, Ben, on A Plague Tale that I wanted to be able to dedicate time. Didn't end up even trying to get it. But I've put it back on the list. I suspected that might, just going over our conversations the past year, I suspected that would be super high. Because, again, you were effusive and it, had staying power.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely one that I think, I came on after playing it. I wrote a review for it, came on afterwards and said, hey, this is why this game is fantastic. And then the week after, I'm like, yeah, but this game is still really good. I'm still thinking about it, and it's stuck with me. So much about it, whether it's the relationship, the brother-sister relationship, whether it's the situation that they're in, whether it's the slightly mystical, medieval kind of element to it. It hit a lot of notes that I really, really like. It's one of those, but you do have to be in the right mood for it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
In the interest of getting on to the back, my number 2 game is a game that I think I owned in 2018, but didn't really start playing until 2019. Talked a bit about it on our episode 150. It's Octopath. Just a solid JRPG. I get it. I get no one gives a shit about it in 2019.
I was not expecting that.
Oh yeah, but I honestly enjoyed the shit out of it. I told you guys, old games. What I liked was it felt like a JRPG, but the mechanics were updated and are more unique. I'm actually kind of sad in 2019 that no one else has sort of run with that. Like
Okay.
the battle system. They've already come out with a new game, I think, haven't they? The Octopath people. That's how out of date this recommendation is.
I don't know. Have you played Fire Emblem or Dragon? I don't know. I don't know anything.
I
about
literally
JRPGs.
have not played anything recent. No.
I mean, if you've just finished Octopath, then there you go.
Yeah. Hey, we committed to games we
JRPGs are long.
played. Yeah.
No, I agree.
But yeah, I liked it. I liked my biggest complaint about the game is it kind of doesn't matter who your main character is because you kind of just have to go through the winding path of everyone. That kind of let me down. But I like the generic mechanics, which are super important on a JRPG. Great. And the writing was good. I picked Cyrus the Scholar, not the most strongest, most strong, good lord, starting character, given that they're the one person you can't sub out, but, like, that's fine. I liked the fact that later in the game, you can get items that will basically give subclasses to other people, so they get the base ability. So you can spread some of that love out, so you can have a thief without having a thief, because you can give your ranger thief abilities, that kind of thing. Although all the weak classes, like my favorite build run is like the merchant, the thief, the scholar, and the dancer, which is like vastly underpowered. But I liked the fact that all of these jobs were just had unique things. Like they didn't just have the standard RPG, warrior, mage, healer, DPS, tank, healer, a magic DPS, or something like that. And so you could really play with those things, and with the shrines that gave you access to basically sub-jobbing, you could have your weak team have a little more healing or something, because you're going to slog through more fights, but they're going to be more fun because you're doing stupid shit. Every time I fight, I'm going to make sure that whoever has some sort of thief ability is going to steal, because I'm maximizing the efficiency of my fight. I like the bullshit builds you could do in that game.
Yeah.
And the story was enough to keep me coming back. And again, I think that's the story for me in 2019 was I didn't have a lot of time for games, and if I took a few weeks off, chances are a game died for me. And if it didn't, you made my list. I cared. I came back. Even if I started a year after I bought it and came back 3 months after I took a break, I still came back. And that's kind of why Octopath sort of fit that niche.
Dug its claws into you.
Yeah. And then I was kind of surprised, but I really thought about things. And the game that surprised me the most that I actually finished, that is a very Aadil game, SteamWorld Quest.
Ooh.
It just did all the things right, consistently.
Yeah, it's a good. I didn't care for the story, but it's the card game that got me interested. It's a good game. They make great games, Let's not beat around the bush.
Part of it is just I like the SteamWorld games, but I really like this one. I ended up just bashing through it in a way that most games don't grip me. It scratched my card game itch. It scratched my RPG itch. I didn't finish it all off the first thrust, but almost, and then wanted to come back. And those were kind of the things I thought about, given that I barely played 15 games this year, properly. I was okay, so what makes you a top 10? Well, the one I wanted to finish, the one that I didn't want to put down, and the one that I came back to afterwards and still finished.
Yeah.
Again, I figured, I looked at why I picked the other ones. That's the number one. Totally, I wouldn't have called it, but it makes perfect sense on my criteria.
When you actually logically think about it, that one just hits more than everything else. It meets those criteria perfectly.
Yeah.
What about Slay the Spire? Did you?
I didn't finish it. I kind of after SteamWorld Quest. So to be honest, what happened was I was also playing Magic: The Gathering Arena, and I was playing SteamWorld Quest, and it's I'm kind of finished SteamWorld Quest. I was oh, another card game. Oh, it's a roguelike, and I was I'll come back to this at some point, and then never came back to it.
That's why I bounced off Slay the Spire. Quest you can finish in 10 hours. So.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, And I definitely did some min-maxing. Like, I did some stupid strategery. I'm like, okay, what is the most nonsense team I can come up with that if I get the right build will trounce everything?
Yeah.
And it took a while to figure that out, but I really enjoyed. You can play that game with like the first 3 characters you get,
and I did
1 or 2 swaps. I really enjoyed it because I once I had the full roster, I started to really try and figure out how I could balance things, and it fed my min-maxing really well. I definitely fucked up in an area of the game where it should have been easy because I was, what about these 3 weak characters and these nonsense builds? But then I figured out how to get through that, and then I had a really, really strong build for the rest of the game, and I felt like this was me playing that game for me, not just trying to finish it, and that's what I really liked, right? Like, it was taking none of the strong characters and being like, I will win this game based on the types of characters and magic and whatever, moves that I enjoy playing. And I figured out how to make it so I could do that. And it's flexible enough of a game that you can play kind of on your own terms. It just takes a little bit of grinding to figure out what the balance is if you aren't taking, fighter, healer, support. If you're trying to do multiple supports with mage as main DPS, then you're going to hit enemies that you have to have a balance of. Your non-DPS characters have to be able to do physical hits to build up their
Steam
battle points, Steam gears or whatever. But they need to be kind of physical, because if you hit an enemy who's main DPS or who isn't weak to magic, then you need to fill that gap in. So given that mostly they're trying to build up gears, you make them do physical DPS, main hitter magic DPS, and then if you hit an enemy who's just nope, fuck off magic, you're like, cool, well then my build up moves end up being my power hit. And it's that type of thing I really liked, was the support characters tended up to build gears cheaply, bullshit physical hits, but understanding there was a good trade-off there for when I hit an enemy my main strategy wouldn't work for. Given that I was just building up gears, suddenly those hits were happening well, and so I could invert exactly the same moves, and I could balance that way. That's what I liked about that game. You could beat it on just whatever terms, or you could try and min-max it, and it was really easy to float between the two. At any point, if I was struggling, I could just have been yeah, well, except for the fact that I haven't been leveling these couple characters, I know exactly how to beat these optimally, which is just a couple of heavy hitters. I'll just swap them out, beat that boss, whatever. But I liked going to a boss I wasn't optimized for and figuring that out. And it was flexible enough that it would involve changing the deck for the individual characters, but if I was paying enough attention and learning enough from the game, I could have the same character and switch their decks such that they could handle the difference without ever being oh, no, this isn't a magic heavy fight, I should go to a physical heavy fight. No, I can figure this out. These are the characters I give a shit about, I will just change my deck style. And that's what I like.
You went into it in a much more granular way than me.
That's kind of what I realized.
Which is great,
Yeah, why I like that game a lot. Yeah.
But also, it says something about the game that it has that depth to it. But
absolutely.
Depth to it that isn't required as well.
I think that's one of the main reasons why I really like
card game.
Yeah.
Well, so the fact that both of us finished it, Lucy, and you give no shits about card games and you still enjoy it, that's one of the reasons that I was no, this floats up, because I'm a nerd on card games, and it satisfied all of that, but it definitely didn't need all of that. That's some really well-designed games.
Yeah, no, I love SteamWorld games.
Good.
Yeah.
Played every single one of them, they're great.
So that's my game of the year.
So, yes, Resident Evil 2, SteamWorld Quest.
And what remains of Florence and the Machine, right? That's what it's called?
A Plague Tale Innocence are our games of the year. They're our favourite games from this year. In a big list of games that we enjoyed playing. Any of our top 10s and multiple games that we talked about this year are games that people should seek out. Dependent on your mood and what you enjoy.
And we didn't play any good games like Sekiro or Disco Elysium. We're just a fake game.
Oh yeah, we're all filthy casuals.
Yeah, exactly.
There were no 2 Death Stranding, which is the mashup of Sekiro and Stranding deaths. Yeah.
Oh,
we
Days
don't give a
Gone.
shit about.
Exactly. And
Okay.
if you've got through our top 10s of this year, you probably listen to us all of the time. So I'm at Nova_47. Lucy is at Juicy Lucy at 9. Aadil is at the Omniarch. We are at Tanked Up Cast. I am gonna split these episodes because we're almost 2 hours for this one,
Yeah, I
and the
figured that
file
one out.
size will be too big for
Alex,
me
your
to
brain
upload.
move.
We never time this right.
Exactly.
But
We'll get it
do you
right
like how
one year.
I'm making it really hard for you to edit? Where like you could edit this out, but blah, because you're like, I will edit this. I'm like, cool. I will make it impossible if you edit it around, because that's my job as co-host.
Derailer. Extraordinaire.
Yep.
So join us.
Call me a bike part.
Join us for the next episode, which will be our games of the decade. But then, our games of the year 2019: Resident Evil 2, A Plague Tale: Innocence, Steam World Quest. Play those games, and
Be
then,
quiet, man.
fuck's sake, bye.
Ciao. Also, if you have thoughts, please actually communicate with us, because we gave you all our communication methods, but didn't say what were your games of the years. We're super curious, because we like engaging with our fan base.
No.
Don't engage with us very much, so fuck you guys.
Join us in a moment. Thanks.
www.outoflives.net